The first thing that I'll say about these major scholarships, it can't be a goal. You can't say that my goal is to win the Rhodes Scholarship, because, oh my gosh, the odds of winning one of these awards are actually, it's pretty hard. It's very, very competitive for these, to apply for these awards. But every single student over the last 15 years that I've advised on applying for such a scholarship will always say to me that there's value in the process. You are going to learn so much about yourself by going through the process of applying for these scholarships. It's pretty amazing, actually. And then, because you'll be applying for grad school, medical school, law school, whatever the case may be, you will already have 3 or 4 letters of recommendation. You will already have a personal statement. You will already have a CV. All of those things are things that you need to apply to use for these major scholarships. So if you get it to the level that it's polished enough to apply for the major scholarship, that's a win. So all of these scholarships are really competitive. From our side, from Montana State, what can we control? We can control what your application looks like, your letter of recommendation, your research record, all of those things we can help you with. What we can't control is post-Montana State. We can't control the committee, we can't control the competition. None of those things are things that we have any control over. So I just want you to know that there's value in the process. I would like to encourage each of you to think about this day and think about, oh, you know what? I might apply for this scholarship. That kind of sounded interesting to me. Okay? So in our office, we've established this process of how to apply for these awards over many, many, many years. And so many of these awards, our office knows exactly how to do it. And so what I'm going to do is kind of go through a calendar of when to apply for these. You can make notes as quickly as you can, but also know that it's going to be recorded live and it will be on the YouTube channel, right? Okay. So here we go. This is I love this little guy. He's on a bicycle. And who can identify which town in England this is? Excuse me? No? What do you think it is? Which city in Oxford? At Oxford, I gave it away. It's Oxford. It's Oxford University. So this little guy's on his way there. Everybody's in their robes. So these are scholarships that you can apply for in your senior year. I'm going to begin with the big ones. So these are the Marshall, the Mitchell, the Rhodes, Gates Cambridge, and the Schwartzman scholarships. These are kind of the cream of the crop of scholarships that you can apply for. The deadline for all of these scholarships, you can just remember it right now, is August 15th. If it's on a Sunday, it doesn't matter. It's going to be on August 15th. I'm going to close the door, okay? Okay. So the first one is the Rhodes Scholarship. This was actually founded by a gentleman that did a lot of extractive mining in southern Africa, Cecil John Rhodes. It's named for him. This was in his will and testament, and you might want to make a note to yourself, check out the will and testament of Cecil John Rhodes, because he describes the criteria for the Rhodes in his last will and in his testament. The only change is, since the 70s, women have been able to apply for this award. So, and then also countries outside of the Commonwealth. So that's a biggie. But these are our 3 Rhodes scholarship winners. Every year we've had national finalists for the Rhodes, and sometimes 2 or 3 national finalists for the Rhodes. It's a huge deal. I'll just tell you a little story of one of our scholars was a finalist, Maggie Russell, and Matthew Bain were there the same year. Hey, Durwood. And so what happened is a guy from Harvard came up and he saw Matthew's sign and it said, Matthew Bain, Montana State University. And this Harvard guy went up and said, oh my gosh, Montana State, that's awesome. And Matthew said, there's another one over there, which I thought was perfect. So, very, very competitive award. This is for US citizens, and you have to be between 18 and 23. So typically students apply for this in their senior year or in their super senior year or in their first year as a graduate student. As a graduate student, if you leave from Montana State or you're doing a master's degree, such as the MSIM here on our campus, even if you're not at Montana State, it's in your interest to apply from Montana State. Number 1, because of our reputation, and number 2, because the Rhodes Trust look at the places that know you the best. We know you the best. Your grad school, your freshman year is not, and your first year in grad school is not going to know you the best. So it's always in your interest, the same with Fulbright, to apply through us. All tuition and fees are paid at Oxford University for 2 years plus living and travel expenses. The Rhodes scholars used to travel from Washington, D.C. to London by boat. They went on the QE2, and now they don't do that anymore. They fly, but they fly as a cohort over to England. And then they stay in the Rhodes House. It's an incredible experience. Rhodes Scholars include people such as Bill Clinton, who never completed his degree at Oxford, but yeah, that's okay. But it's just they become leaders in the community. There are only 32 awarded annually. This is across all universities in the United States. There are 32 US Rhodes Scholars. By the way, for our international, if we have an international student in here, you can apply for the Rhodes as an international student through our office as well. It's a slightly different timetable, but we're talking about US applications. International students, yes, you can apply for it through our office again. MSU nomination is required. What does this mean? By August 15th, you submit into our office, into the honors office, your CV and your personal statement for the Rhodes. It's very clearly outlined on the Rhodes application process what the personal statement is. You get 1,000 words, no more than 1,000 words, no problem. And then you need a minimum, get this, 8 letters of recommendation, 8. 4 of them academic, 4 of them character references. For us and for our purposes, you can actually submit as many as you'd like. I have had students who have submitted more, and then we decide what we're going to do with that. But you need all of those. Now, here is the thing with the Rhodes. A lot of these scholarships is a high trust, high ethical process. Nobody, not your mom, nobody at MSU, nobody can help you with your Rhodes personal statement. You have to sign an attestation that is absolutely your own work. So in the honors office, we will read your personal statement, but none of us will say one word on the content or on the grammar or on anything of that Rhodes statement. We need to see it because we need to pick our institutional endorsees, the students that we are going to endorse for the scholarship. So we need to see your personal statement. We can't fly blind, but nobody will tell you whether it was good or whether it was bad, okay? So we have a committee on our campus that will look at all our institutional applications for the Rhodes. It's open to everybody to apply, not just honor students. Anybody can apply for the Rhodes. And then our committee will decide whom we are going to endorse or not. Okay? And it's an incredible committee. These are people that we've nailed kind of to the floor because they know what to look for. And it matters because when the Rhodes Trust get an application from Montana State University, they'll read it. And they know that we're serious about it. So will you please remember that? That's what the institutional endorsement means. Okay, the internal deadline, August 15th. And the external deadline is always early October. Check out the Rhodes website, it'll tell you exactly where it is. And there's no ifs or buts on late. If it's late, if you miss it because you didn't hit send or your computer failed, or a faculty member did not upload their letter, or your transcript was blank, whatever the case may be, it's a deadline. It's an absolute deadline, you missed it. So in our office, we will submit a week before. Maybe that gives us flexibility so that we don't ever have a case. And because, I actually did have Otto Stein, in civil engineering's wife, break into his office to hit send on a letter while he was in Europe. But it took a lot of, and I sweat bullets in between. So please don't let us do that. Okay. They turn things around very, very quickly. We will submit to your region, but by your region is where you live. So many of you will submit through the Seattle region, which is Montana, Alaska, Wyoming, and so forth. Some of you will be on the East Coast, some of you in Denver, whatever the case may be. You will get, within 2 weeks, notification whether you're a finalist or not. That's how quickly it happens. And then you're going to be interviewing a week or 10 days later. It happens that fast, okay? The interviews are in person in Seattle. And it's the scariest group of people you'd ever seen that will be around the table. And if you come out of an interview, guys, this is for grad school, a job, whatever the case may be, and you feel as though you've just gone through fire, that's a really good sign. I've been on enough committees to know if we have a great candidate, I'm going to push them as hard as I can because I want to see what they're capable of. Does that make sense? If you walk out of an interview and it was just, they asked me where I lived, not a good sign. press them, give them answers that they want to ask follow-up questions. Okay, how do you do this? Well, you're in honors seminar classes. You learn to talk. You need to speak. You need to have a case. You need to be able to argue your point in a very respectful way. They want to see how you interact. Part of the Rhodes interview, by the way, is a lunch. Why on earth do they want to have a lunch? They want to see what your table manners are like. They want to see how you interact with other people. If you're one of those people that are a peacock and you walk into a room and you want all their attention on yourself, you're not going to win a Rhodes Scholarship. If you're a person who walks into a room and says, gosh, I just read your CV, this is amazing, how did you do that? That's a Rhodes Scholar, when it's not about you. Okay, so what do we do to prepare you for the interview? We arrange mock interviews. You're going to have a minimum of 3 mock interviews with MSU faculty, different panels that we'll put together for all our Rhodes finalists, all these big panelists, and we give them your entire application and we give them killer questions. And if you walk out of your first mock interview on our campus and you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to do it, then we did our job right. Because we really want to make that the toughest interview that you'll go through. Okay? Do you see the pedagogy? Do you see how we teach you? And then what happens is that if you don't win the Rhodes, my gosh, have you gained a lot of things. Do you see? So it's not about winning the scholarship. I would not have done major scholarship advising if I thought every student that my signature is under is going to win an award. I would never do it because you know what the odds are. By the way, for all of these, once we've decided, there's no limit on how many we can nominate for the Rhodes, but typically it's maybe 3, 4, maybe sometimes 1. If we don't have more than that, we don't have more than that. It's going to be how many students are representative of Montana State University at this level for this award. So, on top of all of those 8 letters of recommendation, your personal statement, your academic statement, your 2-page CV, all of those things, the person, the Dean of the Honors College, Dean Sobek, going forward, writes the institutional endorsement letter. The institutional endorsement letter is probably 2 pages in length, never less than that. And it is basically an overview of everything that we know about you. This is why it's so important for us that you have applied to the Honors College. I can't tell you how many times I go back to your presidential application, your application to the Honors College, because I will write about your 4 years at Montana State and what the trajectory looks forward. So, and then for many of you guys, you are here because we have a relationship. Don't hesitate to reach out to me if I can be a reference to you. I can't write the endorsement, but if I know you, I will be very happy to write a letter of recommendation for you for these awards. Seriously, ilsemarielee@gmail.com. Okay, here we go. This week, when for the 125th anniversary of the university, we brought all our Rhodes Scholars by because Montana State has had quite a few. And this is where I have to tell you one interesting thing. Where is this gal? This gal over here, Miss Tishanor. Her father was a Rhodes Scholar in the 40s, 30s, 40s from Montana State. So we literally invited all these people back, which was really interesting. And you know what her dad invented, this Bobcat Rhodes Scholar? Polyester. She was a little bit embarrassed to tell me that, but he invented polyester. Okay, so this is Katie Hansen, Stephen Davis, all our national finalists, Matthew Bain. Her father was a presidential Rhodes Scholar. She was the president of Great Falls College, MSU. Jen DeVoe, oh my gosh, do I want to bring Jen DeVoe back to Montana State. She's on our External Advisory Council. She was a Goldwater Scholar, a Rhodes Scholar, an Indigenous Scholar, and she's now one of the major professors of the Oregon Health Sciences University. So she's just waiting for an opportunity to come back to Bozeman. Just love Jen. Joe Teal, Stephen Davis, and then of course our football player here, Colin Hammock. Remember Colin Hammock? We did these beautiful articles on Colin. And so, anyway, this is a tradition here. Okay, the Marshall Scholarship. You guys know what the Marshall Plan was. This was the United States way to rebuild, particularly England, but also Western Europe. And so the Marshall Plan, for the United Kingdom to say thank you to the United States for the Marshall Plan, they created Marshall Scholarships. So it's like the Rhodes, but in my opinion, it's actually even better. Why? Because with the Rhodes, you go to Oxford. I don't think I told you that. By the way, you have to really, when you decide I want to apply for a Rhodes Scholarship, the 3 things that you need to have in spades is academic excellence. That means a 4.0 with tons of honors courses. It means leadership. It means you're elected to office. You're making a difference on this campus, or in our community, or in our state, in spades. And it means public service. Those three are for all these scholarships. Public service is not community service. Community service is when you volunteer for things and you pick up trash, and that's all good. We've got to do that. But public service is something completely different. That is one of our students who this year walked into the Gallatin County prosecutor's office and found a box with 139 cases, sexual assault cases that were never prosecuted. She started going through those and found the cases that could be prosecuted even after years. That's leadership. That's public service. Does it make sense what I'm trying to say? So you need those things. So the Marshall Scholarship is those three categories, but then one more for the Marshall Scholarship. Ambassadorial potential. You need to be an ambassadorial potential. What on earth does ambassadorial potential means? It simply means that you're going to walk into a room and the Prime Minister of England is going to be in that room. And can you say something to that person? You're going to be an ambassador for Montana State University, for the university. How do you interact in high-level social, political, cultural settings? And the Marshall Scholars, similarly, you walk into the San Francisco consulate for an interview, they pay attention to how you're dressed, how you address people, how you react to that situation. They immediately start interviewing you for the most prestigious scholarship there is. So the Rhodes, you're in a cohort, you go to Oxford. The Marshall, you pick where you want to go. And so if you're in engineering, you better pick the best engineering school in your field in the United Kingdom. That's where they'll send you as a Marshall Scholar. They will be happy to expand it to a PhD if you arrive. For the Rhodes and for the Marshall and for the Gates Cambridge, you can apply for one-year master's programs, but you're not going to get a serious consideration. My recommendation is to apply for 2 one-year master's programs or 1 PhD, whatever the case may be. But don't just go for a year. It looks like you want to go on a vacation. Find 2 because they'll fund it completely. Okay? The Marshall, so Brian Bottomland from Miles City was our first Marshall Scholar. I just about died when I knew he was a Marshall Scholar. And so what he did is he studied economics at the London School of Economics and climate change at the University of Bristol. Bristol is one of those industrial settings in the United Kingdom. He could not have picked a better place to study those things. He's never been back to the United States except on coming back for vacations, and he's on our Honors Advisory Council. Because he's all over the world studying climate change and economics. He's become a world expert at doing this. It's extraordinary. So Brian, I will always have a soft spot in my heart for him. And I know that Brian wouldn't mind me sharing this. He also applied for the Truman. He didn't get an interview. I complained to the Truman. I said, you missed somebody very special here. So then he didn't get an interview for the Rhodes, but he wins a scholarship that's even more competitive than the Rhodes. So I want to tell you that you just don't, you can't predict things, but for Brian, that was the best thing under the sun. With the Rhodes, you go in this plane ride, you go to Oxford House, and you're part of this cohort. With the Marshall Scholarship, you're a VIP. They meet you at the airport, and they take you to your apartment. And so it's much more concierge service. The Marshall is incredibly competitive, and I would highly recommend that you have a publication behind your name before you think about applying for the Marshall. Again, and then Max Yates from Bozeman, he's our latest Marshall Scholar. You might know that Max started our tutoring program in the American Indian Student Success Center. He started it from scratch. You might know that he's published in public health medicine with the incredible nursing professor Peter Bierhaus. Multiple publications. Community health is part of what he does, and then also economics. So, graduate study for 4-year university in the United States, tuition expenses for UK for 2 years, and they will extend it. You're up to 40 awarded annually. MSU nomination is required. We can only nominate 4. We've never done that. The max we've ever nominated is 2. Internal submission mid-August, external submission early October, and the interviews is exactly the same process as the Rhodes. And throughout the United States, many students across the United States will apply for the Marshall and the Rhodes all at the same time. And then before you accept an interview for the Marshall, they'll ask you, did you get an interview for the Rhodes? They really want to know it. And you better say, yes, I applied for the Marshall, because they want to know if they have that level of competition. And then you have to decide, if offered, which one you're going to take. The Mitchell Scholarship, this scholarship is actually on hiatus for this year. It's called the Irish Rhodes, but for our freshmen it might be reinstated. It just depends on funding, but this is exactly the same as the Rhodes Scholarship, but instead of going to a university in the United Kingdom, you're going to university in Ireland. Same thing. This is our Mitchell scholar, Shane Colvin. He combined his degree in music with his degree in neuroscience, and he studied music therapy in Ireland. 1 year study, Ireland, Northern Ireland, no academic restrictions, tuition, room, living and travel expenses, only 12 per year. MSU nomination is required, and internal submission mid-August. Okay, Gates Cambridge. Here are our Gates Cambridge scholars. I'm so proud of them, and I'm in touch with them. This is Montana Duke Wilson. Montana is an indigenous student from the Fort Peck Reservation. And then Hillary Favage from Livingston, who is now a president of a company in New Mexico, Albuquerque. It is open to US citizens, but you can also apply as an international student through the international process. This is Bill and Melinda Gates that copied the Rhodes Scholarship. And instead of going to Oxford, you go to Cambridge University. It's 1 to 3 years of graduate study at Cambridge University. Tuition and a living allowance. Internal submission mid-August, external submission mid-October. This is a slightly different animal than the Rhodes and the Marshall. Why? Because you have to apply for the Gates Cambridge in the United States, and then you apply to Cambridge University separately. Those processes happen parallel. So the minute that Cambridge University says, we accept you into a certain program, Gates Cambridge elevates you. Then you interview in the United States, and the people in England are going, please give him that award, because then the two meet, and then you can go to Cambridge University as a Gates Cambridge scholar. It has happened that our students, one student, David Hollard, who was a Goldwater scholar, chemistry major, he did not get the Gates Cambridge, but he won an award through the process that was even more valuable than the Gates Cambridge. And as a university, we're not eligible for this award. It's called the Churchill Scholarship. The Churchill Scholarship are only for Ivy League universities. Well, he interviewed for the Gates Cambridge. Cambridge University so much wanted him that they gave him a Churchill Scholarship. So good things can come out of that. Okay, so just know that you are, as undergrads, unbeatable, because I will put your undergraduate research records, creative, research, social sciences, STEM, whatever the case may be, against any university in the United States. So few undergrads are published. So that's why you can win these things. Okay, so Hillary Favage went straight from a bachelor's degree in chemical and biological engineering at Montana State. She was in the lab of Joe Seymour and Sarah Card, into a PhD at Cambridge. Why? Because Cambridge University wanted to know what Joe and Sarah were doing in their NMR library lab right here on campus. So Hillary actually brought incredible expertise. Her dad is a forest ranger, so she could fix anything. She's an engineer. She literally put up the NMR lab at Cambridge University. I kid you not. It's amazing. So they funded her a PhD. And so she met her husband there, Pete, who's a physics major from New Zealand. They're married. He's teaching at the University of New Mexico. She's the president and CEO of a chemical engineering company. And they have one baby on the way and another one already. So it's just a happy story. Montana Duke Wilson, who was double majoring here in political science and in economics. He transferred here from Dartmouth. He was one of our top Montana students that was recruited by an Ivy League university, and he went to Dartmouth, and then something very traumatic happened to him. His mom and dad drove from Fort Peck all the way to Dartmouth to go and get their son. And he started working in the prosecutor's office on the reservation and did all these cases because he actually at Dartmouth studied tribal law. Do you know Montana?
I don't.
Okay. He's just a prince of a man.
Do you know his parents?
Yes, very well.
What are their names? Because I might know that.
Well, I don't know his dad, but his mom's name is Wapinye. So I've met his dad, but I don't know him as well as his mom. So he did apply to Montana State, and Dr. Wendy Stock in economics called me and she said, you've got to meet Montana. And before I even reached out to him, he was sitting in my office. Make a long story short, tribal law. And he was interested in political science and of developing nations. And he went to Gates Cambridge, the Cambridge University. He just applied for a 1 year, and I kept saying to Montana, oh Montana, I wish you would do your PhD there. And then I got a call back from him in his dorm room at Cambridge. I kid you not, he was in his robes, because you wear robes when you cross the lawn at Cambridge University. And he said, Dr. Lee, they offered me a PhD program. And I said, oh gosh, Montana, I'm so happy. He said, are you going to accept it? Yes, I'm going to accept it. And then 2 months later, he called me back and he said, Dr. Lee, I'm coming back to Montana because there's no reason for me to study law at Cambridge University. Where I need to study law is at the University of Montana. Absolutely, he wanted to study Montana law. So he's now a JD and he's going to change Montana. So I'm hoping for the days, guys, when Montana, Duke Wilson is going to be the governor of the state of Montana and Stephen Davis is going to be the president of Montana State University. I hope I live long enough to see this thing happen. And President Cruzado and I'm sure we're going to see it. So, okay. So, you know why he didn't want to do his PhD at Cambridge? I'm a teacher, I have to teach. Can I tell you guys why he did not accept the PhD offer? If you graduate from Cambridge University, British universities, colonial universities, you bend your knee and they give you your degree. And Montana would not bend in front of a colonial power. Okay, I see lots of nods. Okay, see, I'm a teacher. I've got to teach. Okay, the Schwartzman Scholarship. Okay, this one is not so favorable. So Schwartzman is the businessman that wanted to make a Chinese Rhodes. And we've had quite a few Chinese Schwartzman scholars. You go to China for 1 year. You know, and he's right in the sense that to understand the world, you have to understand China. So you go to Tsinghua University, which is the Harvard of China in Beijing. So it's to prepare the next generation of global leaders, similar to the Rhodes when you go to China. It's a 1-year master's degree at Tsinghua University in Beijing. You can either do public policy, economics and business, or international studies. Ages 18 to 29, so you can do this quite a bit later. Internal is mid-August, external in late September. This is a drawing of the campus. That's Riley Shearer. Oh my gosh, he had a great time in China. He's now in medical school. And this is Garrett Leach. He's now back in Bozeman. He's working for, what is the investment firm? I'll think of it in a minute. And then Taylor Blossom and Catherine Budisky, both Schwartzman scholars. And Catherine Budisky, and then also Mayuri Singh from India, she applied internationally from it, went straight from the Schwartzman to Rhodes. To the Rhodes University, or Oxford University. So again, these scholarships open doors, and it's in the scholarship organization's best interest to get their students out. So similar, academic excellence, leadership, service. And then with all these programs, you really have to study. So I want to go to Cambridge University because I want to be in the lab of Professor so-and-so, and I want to work with them for this reason. And if you have faculty members, I'm thinking of Blake Videne, for example, that have collaborators all over the world, you know, those are the people that is going to be calling up the phone. It's just still is networking. It still is people that will help you in that way. So find a very specific program, or I'll do the advice at the very end. These are scholarships that you can apply for in your junior year. The Truman Scholarship, boy, do I love this award. So, oops, how did I list? Oh boy, I don't know what it got, okay. The Truman Scholarship should, yeah. Oh, this is an extra slide, guys. I wanted to mention the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Fellowship. Although we don't do this advising in the office, there are literally 1,200 NSF Graduate Research Fellowships that are awarded every year. Each of them is worth $120,000. And we've had great success with undergrads in honors applying and receiving these awards. And it'll pay grad school, $120,000. You can go anywhere with it. It's not tied to a university. So please think about this. And then I mentioned these faculty mentors because they are not only mentors to our students in terms of the NSF Graduate Research Fellowships, they read for the NSF Graduate Research Fellowship, so they know what the readers are looking for. Jeffrey Hayes, Sarah Codd, Abigail Richards, please don't hesitate to reach out to them if you think about applying for those, okay? And that's Miles Maxer. I'm glad I reminded myself of that by putting his picture there. Miles Maxer got an NSF Graduate Research Fellowship with a DIS degree. So please remember that, okay? Here comes the Truman. My slides were just a little bit out of order. We have a great tradition on our campus that if a student wins a Truman Scholarship, we go to their classroom and surprise the students with flowers. President Cruzado and I will do this. So that is Levi Berkey from Kalispell. He comes from a logging family, and he couldn't believe he was going to go to Harvard, and he did. He has a degree from Harvard now. Alex Patterson and President Cruzado, Kara Thuringer, and Vanessa Conover from Great Falls. Kara Thuringer, we did get an incredible Truman application. Guys, when the coal exports to China really started picking up across the state of Montana, she was a photography major, and she stayed under our bridges and took pictures of the pollution to rivers and the damage to bridges, and it was a civil case against the state of Montana. So that's a Truman Scholar. Okay, so what is this about? It's for full-time junior level students. You need to be a junior, but it's a little different. You have to have just 1 year left. Demonstrated leadership, a potential for influencing public policy, a record of public service, potential to perform well at a premier graduate or law school, and an intent to pursue a career in public service. It's $30,000 in funding for graduate school. It's a little bit more right now. Here's the beautiful part of the Truman. You don't have to do it right after school. We have a city commissioner here in Bozeman who's going to be involved in honors this fall and will help with the Truman, as I hope he might be able to. Zach Brown. He still hasn't used his Truman Scholarship. He wanted to go to law school, but he's done at least 10 years of public service work by being a city commissioner in Bozeman before he's going to go off to grad school. That just sits there and waits for whenever you're ready to go to law school or to graduate school. This is a huge plus for being a Truman Scholar. As in the case of Levi Berkey, his top school to go into for a PhD in education was to go to Harvard. The Truman Scholarship gives you preferential admission to our nation's top graduate schools. You get internships over the summers with federal agencies. There are 50 to 58 annually. There's typically 1 per state and then maybe 2 per state depending on the population base. The internal submission is mid-December. It's usually the last Friday of the semester. Same thing, a committee will gather and decide which students we are going to endorse for the Truman Scholarship. Again, we can endorse 4 with 1 transfer student. And then, again, the interviews come back very quickly in about 2 weeks, and then we step into gear. And the Truman interview, guys, if you would believe this, is tougher than the Rhodes interview. It's a very, very tough interview. The MSU nomination is required for up to 4 students. And this was one of my happiest days. This was in front of the Truman Library in Liberty, Missouri. And this is with Alex Patterson and Haley, and then also with Connor Hoffman. And Haley from, she's actually eventually from Montana. He was from Idaho. Where is Alex from? Utah and Idaho. And what was special is that these 2 were named Truman Scholars that year. But Alex Patterson organized the entire Leadership Week. So it was Bobcats all over in front of the Truman National Library. I love this. This is a very special picture. This is Zariah Tolman from Otto, Wyoming, a small little town. This girl in high school was a pole vaulter, competitive pole vaulter, cell-biology neuroscience major here, worked in the lab of Frances Lefcourt. She started a nonprofit called Positively Outward. I'm sure you've heard of this organization. And this is when President Cruzado told her that she was a Truman Scholar. She literally became airborne. And my late husband Denny is crying. President Cruzado and I are both with our mouths. So it was a special moment. Okay. Oh, and Brianna Bull shows. Brianna Bull shows and Max won in the same year. We were the only university with 2 scholars that year. Last year's Andy Baker. Andy Baker, mental health, rural Montana, that was her platform. Everybody has, your application has to hold together, and you have to write a policy statement, and so hers was on mental health, specifically among rural Montanans, ranchers. Okay, the Goldwater and the Udall Scholarship. This is fun. I went and grabbed all the pictures I can. Do you guys know that we have now 90 Goldwater scholars at Montana State? And I'm not sure what their ranking is going to be. Last time I checked, we were tied with Yale and we were above MIT. And so it's pretty amazing what is happening here. Remember this, the Goldwater deadline is always the first Friday in November, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's the internal deadline. If you're interested in applying for the Goldwater, and many of you will have such a leg up, because I look in this room and I know that you're doing research. This is why we have a freshman research symposium. It's simply because of the Goldwater. We want to get everybody involved in labs, and we want you to be published by the time you're a junior. You're going to probably win a Goldwater scholarship if you're published by your time you're a junior or a sophomore, depending on when you apply, and you have a really, really high GPA. You're probably going to win it. Okay, so here we go. It's for sophomores and juniors, demonstrated potential and research interest, intent to pursue research careers in mathematics, natural sciences, engineering, or computer science. They list on the Goldwater website the degrees that are preferential degrees for the Goldwater. And by the way, you can also have, if you have a BS DIS, you can apply for the Goldwater scholarship. $7,500 per year for tuition fees, books, room and board. Many of you already have scholarships that almost meet all your expenses, but this goes on top of it. Internal submission, first Friday in November. External submission is late January. MSU nomination required. Again, we can nominate 4 students and a transfer. Okay, so what do you submit on that first Friday in November? The first thing is you have to go on the Goldwater website and then log in as a candidate. Then Dr. Sobek will get an email saying so-and-so has applied. Please review their pre-application. And basically that is a conversation saying, okay, you're going to apply, tell me about your work, tell me about your GPA, all of that. And then Dr. Sobek will pre-approve your application, which opens the whole application for you. So by that first Friday in November, you download and make a PDF of that printed application of all the short answers, download and make a PDF of your Goldwater essay. And the Goldwater is very specific about the font size, the margins, illustrations, footnotes, everything has to be just so. And then for the Goldwater, you need 3 letters of recommendation. You'll actually fill out who your letter writers are going to be. But as with all these awards, we're not going to put a limit on how many letters of recommendation you could submit. If you want to bring 6, do that. And there's actually a portal on the MSU homepage under the major scholarship, and you can send to your references a link that they can just download. Then you put in the subject line, whose letter is this? And then Natalie and the person in our front office will get it and file it all together. We combine all those PDFs and then we give it to our Goldwater committee. The Goldwater committee will review the applications, and within about 2 weeks, definitely before Thanksgiving, you will know if you've got the institutional endorsement for the Goldwater or not. Okay? As with many of these awards, that dollar amount really is nothing. It helps to pay for tuition. But if you're a Goldwater scholar, there's not a graduate school that's going to say no to you. Even UK institutions have drop-down menus, and there's a separate application if you're a US Goldwater scholar. It just opens doors. It's a shoe-in for the NSF Graduate Research Fellowship. So this is really worth it to apply. Okay? Then we'll get back to you, and that your nomination will be, if you get an email from us, congratulations, you've received our nomination for the Goldwater Scholarship. Pending, and this is really the truth, pending your December transcript, because we don't know what your grades are going to be in December, and your publication, is your publication submitted, we just need to know that all of those things have been approved. We don't have to submit until the end of January, and between the time that you submit until the end of January, the Goldwater Committee, which are all extraordinary faculty members, along with Dr. Sobek and Stephen Davis, they will work with you to polish that application. There are incredible people on this campus. I'm thinking of Dr. Mary Cloninger, that many of you have had, and I'm thinking of Dr. Lawrence, I'm thinking of Dr. Abigail Richards. These are go-to people. They know the Goldwater, and they can really help you a lot with your application, okay? And just keep that incredible streak going. And we've actually had 3 times that we've won 4 awards. Oh, and this is on the homepage today, on the banner. Oh, no. This one is on the banner today. Isn't that good? It's pretty special. Okay, the Udall Scholarship. The Udall Scholarship is a scholarship for students that are in 2 categories. You could apply as a sophomore or as a junior. There are 2 groups. The first one is if you have a career in environmental public policy, And then there's also a scholar category for outstanding Native American and Alaska Native students went in to pursue a career related to healthcare or tribal public policy. What does this do? There's tuition, fees, room and board for 1 year. I think the stipend is actually more right now. Internal submission in mid-December, external early March. MSU nomination is required. So if I think again, Kara Thuringer, she's the gal who video recorded took pictures of all the train damage to our bridges. And then Blake Bjornson. The reason that we have a sustainability director and sustainability office on our campus is because Blake walked into President Cusado's office her first week on campus and said, we need to do something about sustainability on our campus. So he actually broke the ice. We never had a student in the environmental category until Blake Bjornson from Kalispell won it. This is Emery Three Irons, who's now gone on to multiple other awards, including an NSF graduate research fellowship. I'm so proud of Emery, and I remember working with him on his application, and he was so humble, and he kept saying, hoping for the best, Dr. Lee, hoping for the best. And he could almost not believe it. I called him to tell him that he won the Newell Scholarship, and explained to him that the press was going to reach out to him. Put the phone down. It wasn't 5 minutes later, and it was Emery calling me back. He said, Dr. Lee, this is Emery. Really? So, and then Montana Wilson and Elva Dorsey in the Indigenous category. And then Matthew Bain, Environmental. Brianna Bull shows Udall and Truman. And then, oh, this is a Fulbright. She also won the Udall. That's right. And then Andrea Storer, last year, Udall Scholar. And then guys, this year's scholar has not been announced yet. The press release is being written right now, but she's in this room. Greta, would you just stand in? Greta Gustafson, Wolf Point, Montana. Okay, this is a scholarship that we fought for. This is the American Astronaut Foundation Scholarship. We had to competitively apply to be among the 42 universities that could submit nominations for this award. How many of you came to the event with the astronaut a couple of weeks ago? Colonel Hastings and I were there. It was just astonishing. It was really, and you recorded at Alexandria, so it was just pretty darn amazing. John Harrington. So we are now a university that can submit students' names for the American Astronaut Society of Astronaut Scholarship, and basically it's $15,000. Okay, $15,000. $15,000 that goes on top of your other awards, and it's for a year and can be renewable for another year. And in addition to that, you go to an astronaut fellowship scholarship, I believe it's in Houston, and then for the rest of your life, you're part of this organization where you will get jobs and you will get internships through this network of U.S. astronaut fellowships. So Amanda Hobb won a gold award this year, U.S. astronaut fellowship last year and this year because it's renewable. But take a look at that website. It's for anything in STEM. Anything in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So if you want to be an astronaut, Amanda Cohen came home from Houston last year to honors office and said, Dr. Lee, you won't believe what they did. There are astronaut suits for women, finally. So anyway, if you might not think you want to go to space, but if you want to work in the space program and think about that, I highly recommend it. I think it's the coolest thing under the sun. And again, we had to compete, and we had to raise $250,000 from a donor to get this program at Montana State, and we have it now. So guys, take advantage of it. Stephen Davis is the institutional representative for the MSU astronaut program. Okay, Fulbright. Fulbright is an incredible program, and from this year on, it's going to be in the Office of International Programs because it's for all students, and they actually have more staff than we do by a considerable margin. So just write down Toby Blake. Toby Blake is going to be in charge of Fulbright scholarships, but I can tell you about it because I've actually read Fulbright scholarships and kind of have a good idea of what they're looking for. So you can apply as a student, and you can also apply after leaving Montana State through Montana State University to get a Fulbright grant. So the Fulbright website is really robust. You go on the Fulbright website and you say, oh, I've always wanted to go to New Zealand, and I wonder what grants are out there. Then you look at New Zealand and they'll list all the grants, all the possibilities of universities that you can go to, government entities as a US Fulbright scholar. And so if you decide that, oh my gosh, there's the perfect place for me, this is where I want to go, you start working on your application. So Toby can help you. Michelle Grocki, who's been our advisor up to now, will also help you on your applications. Internal deadline is going to be August 15th. There's no interview with the Fulbright. There's a campus interview where you'll meet with MSU faculty that have all won Fulbright awards, and those faculty will interview you. And then they will give the Fulbright Commission a recommendation on whether you are a suitable candidate for a Fulbright or not. Regardless of the campus interview committee, if they have not enough candidates in a certain category, they will push you through to the semi-final round. So it's really of no consequence. So there are two. It's an award, self-designed study or research in 150 countries, English language teaching assistance in over 40 countries. So there's one is a research grant, or you could be an English teaching assistant. But clearly, if you're going to be an English teaching assistant, you have to have a fluency in a language of the host country to be able to teach English. But while you're in country as an English teaching assistant, they will know what community project are you going to be doing. Well, in my case, I would have said, I'm a musician, I'll go play chamber music, or I'll play in the city band, or something like that. Or I teach soccer. Whatever the case may be, they just want to get you integrated into the community because you become an ambassador for the United States. But typically, our students are doing self-designed study projects. So this is why it's so important for all of you who've applied for USB funding. You know how to write a research grant. So basically, that's what a Fulbright grant is. So it's pretty amazing. Highly motivated, open-minded individuals. They are really interested in students from Montana because they know you're problem solvers. They know you can do things. If you arrive in your host country and you're in the middle of the Sudan and there's not a bed but there's a mattress, a Montanan says, good, we're camping. A student from the East Coast will say, where's my bed? So, it's a totally different thing. They know that we can rough it and we can roll with the punches. And there's also those who can contribute to and benefit from a cultural exchange. So those are the criteria. You have to be a US citizen, bachelor's degree by the time of the grant. So when you leave to go to your host country, you have to have your bachelor's degree and sufficient language ability as required by the host country and in keeping with the Fulbright mission. And you have to be in good health. But they pay everything. You get a monthly stipend. All your expenses are being paid. If you're married, your spouse goes. If you're married with children, your spouse and your children go. So it's an incredible way for the United States to get ambassadors of the United States in all these incredible countries. So I highly recommend it. Full research grant or an English teacher assistantship, round-trip airfare, monthly stipend, and health insurance. Here are some of our 3 most recent Fulbright scholars. Went to Slovakia, she went to South America, and she went to Taiwan. And President Buzara always has a reception for our major scholarship winners. We have one next week, and the national finalists. Okay, so my general advice. This is not an application for graduate school. So some students put their hopes inadvertently on applying for one of these awards to go to grad school. So that's not part of it. This is just the gravy on top. Apply to all the graduate medical schools, law schools that you want to go to anyway and say, you know what? I might just apply for the Oxford, I might just apply for the Rhodes or something like that. You have nothing to lose to apply for the institutional endorsement. But really just know that this is not a path to graduate school. Don't put your graduate school eggs in this basket. There's just too many unknowns. Sounds obvious, but it's the case. Advice on references. This is why it's so helpful to be in the Honors College, because you're in small classes and you get to know our faculty and our staff incredibly well. So it's really tough if you're constantly in classes of 200 students, 150 students. How's that faculty member going to get to know you? So the people that know you really well on the campus are going to be your references. But this is what I would recommend you do when you select your references. You start thinking now. If you had to ask for references now, who would you ask? It's a good time for you to start thinking about it because you're going to apply for graduate school. You're going to apply for future employment. It's good to think who are going to be your references. So you will go to Professor so-and-so and ask them in person, would you serve as a reference for me? And if they say yes, and you'll just say, I'll send you my personal statement, and I'll send you my CV, and then also send them information on the award that you're applying for. These are the criteria. And then be helpful and say, this is the area specifically that I would like you to address. Because if you just send them your CV and a letter, then all 5 references that you're going to ask will write the same letter. But if you ask for Professor so-and-so, this is the area. Remember, I wrote my thesis with you. I gave this in-class presentation on da-da-da-da-da. We went on hike and read together. Just jog their memory so that they have something very specific for you to write on. You don't want 8 letters that are going to be exactly the same. Big no-no. I have seen this, and you can tell immediately. Don't write that letter. We can tell immediately. It's happened a couple of times when a faculty member will say, you write the letter, I'll sign it. Just say thank you very much and go. You don't write that letter. Also, you should not see it. If you're in an interview and it becomes apparent that you know what's in one of the letters, that's not a good idea. So ask your recommenders to send it to whomever it needs to see or give it to you in a sealed envelope. But it's good for you not to see that letter. Afterwards, I always share letters with students, but not before. Advice on essays. You already know that for the Rhodes, nobody can help you with that application. The same with the Mitchell. The Marshall, they understand that advisors such as myself, Dr. Sobek, Stephen Davis, will need to look at your application and give you some advice if there's an issue with the scholarship. So it's important that the essays are your own work. Generally, a great application essay is an essay that nobody else could have written. If it's a generic or general, it's not going to go anywhere. If it has a grammatical error or spelling mistakes, it's not going to go anywhere. Typically, a good frame of reference is to say, 1/3, this is what I've done. The next third is, this is why I want to go to this institution on this scholarship. And then the last third is, because I want to do this. And if there's a through line like this in your personal statement or on your application, that's beautiful, and that's going to get some traction. The Truman is actually, it's 13 questions, and those 13 questions asks those questions in that order. But make sure that you've got that through line in your personal statement. The scholarship and the degree program that you're interested in must be a perfect fit for you. So for example, if you write an application and you want to say, I want to go into public policy, I want to write public policy in ag economics, and I'm taking an extreme example here, and you've never had an economics class in your life, that's not going to go anywhere. You have to have the background to be able to have prepared yourself for this work. By the way, for the NSF Graduate Research Fellowship, Astronaut Foundation, and Goldwater, you can apply for an MD, PhD, but not just an MD. It has to have the research component to it. You have to understand the why. Why do you want to go to Oxford? Why do you want to go to Cambridge? Why are you applying for the Truman? Yes, because you're a public servant. Why are you applying for the Goldwater? Yes, because you love research and want to continue in that or teach at the university. So there has to be a through line through the application. The value is in the process. The value is not in winning these applications. And all of them, academics, leadership, and service. With the exception of the Goldwater and an NSF Research Foundation, that's just pure science and the astronaut. But all of the others is academics, leadership, and service. Questions? That's my Rosie. Yeah. Okay, guys, any questions? Lenny?
You're talking about publications. Do you mean first author publications, or just publications that you were on the authors list of?
That's a great question. Do I mean first author or unlisted under either? If you're first author, that's phenomenal. And you will be very, very impressed. And they will interview you. If you apply for one of the scholarships with the interview, they'll ask you about it. And so, yeah, either is great. But listed as an author or first author, hooray. Happen to know what you're doing, so that's exciting. And yeah, good. Other questions? I know I spoke a mile a minute. I'm sure you have more questions. Oh yeah.
Where online can we find this information? Like, is there a place on the MSU website or an honors website?
You know, it is. There's a major scholarship button on the homepage. The scholarships are listed there. I don't think the NSF, the Astronaut Foundation one is listed there yet, but I'll ask Natalie to upload it. But they're all there. And so I would really recommend that you go and do that, look at them again, because it'll jog, your memory will just be jogged with everything that I'm saying right now. And internalize it. And I didn't even say this. The reason I'm standing in front of you, and the reason I love doing major scholarship is because that's why I'm here. I want a scholarship like this in South Africa. And this is just my way of giving back. So don't be shy. Don't undersell yourself. And if you walk into an interview and you apply for the scholarship with humility and saying, "Oh my gosh, this is such a stretch," that's the attitude to have. That's the attitude to have. Great question. Anything else? I know we have several scholars in this room, which makes me very excited. It's like, go Cats, go, right? Yeah, let's go Bobcats, let's go. Yeah, and I think of Colonel Hastings, who's here. When you were a student at Montana State College, these opportunities didn't exist. And so here we are. The system is there. It can happen. Okay. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you.